Hello there, my friends. I want to share some information I've got about the OceanGate incident and the Titan. I'm not a professional and expert in submersibles, not in materials or anything, but I have built cars and bikes with carbon fiber, so I understand the material quite highly and a lot about it. So I can tell you the easy way in the layman to understand the way carbon fiber works is that it's weaved particles. So like pressboard, they've got a whole bunch of particles that are weaved together, laid over top of each other, different layers of carbon fiber. And they lay it on, and the sub is a surface that's kind of round, right? It's like that. So they lay it over and they keep rounding it round and round until they've got their surface, the thickness of the wall that they want of carbon fiber. Well, that's all pressed material together. It's not one material like titanium. It's metal. It's all one piece. They can model that. They can crush it and look at it after and say, hey, that's where it folded. That's where it gave up. This is what we need to do to fix this. When carbon gives up to that point, they can't. It obliterates. There's nothing left to model. There's nothing to look at and say, okay, this is what failed. This is what went wrong. So that's why they don't use it in certification of submersibles or any kind of pressurized hull. They don't use it in airplanes either. They've used it for airplane frames, the frame of the airplane, not the pressurized hull. They know not to because it can bust up very easily once it is pressurized. That doesn't go for submersibles only. That's any pressurized hull, whether it be air or sea. So that's a known fact long time ago. He was an airplane builder, Stockton, so that's where he thought maybe he could use the carbon fiber, thinking it's a very great material, and it is. It's great for what it does. It's not great for all purposes. When he says it's better than titanium, well, that depends. What are you using it for? There's some things that titanium's way better for. There's some things that plastic is better for. So that's a really bad description to say, hey, carbon fiber is better than titanium. You can't say that. And the fact is they use titanium because they can crush it and look at it after and go, hey, that's where it failed. That's not safe. That's what we need to fix, etc. They can't do that with carbon. Once you destructive test it, it's gone to destruction. It obliterates. There's nothing to look at after. So they don't use it for that reason. It's not safe. That being said, the carbon fiber, again, it presses apart. So as soon as you pressurize it from one side, it's weaved this way onto the hull. So when you pressurize it from this side, it gets what's called a soft spot once the material gives, and it starts giving, and then finally it goes and it gives. So if you were to pressurize it from the opposite side, it's a lot stronger, but sooner or later it will give too. They've used it on oxygen tanks before, and they found out it could hold 3 times the strength from the inside wall, not from the outside, which is where the submarine will be taking the pressure from the water. And again, that's just the obvious thing to happen at depth. It's not necessarily, I know professionals said that's what happened, but we can't say that. 50-50. It could have been that. It could have took on water slowly, sank to the bottom, and exploded once it hit the bottom of the ocean. And then, or imploded once it hit the bottom of the ocean, and then explosion following, given it had PSI air tanks, a 10,000 PSI air tank, oxygen tanks on board for life support. All those things would explode even if it did implode. So that's a fact. We will find out in the future from the professionals what really happened, and that's just facts of carbon fiber and stuff. I'm not saying that's what happened to the sub, but that's how carbon fiber works, and it's very clear that it could have happened. So with the titanium and the carbon, you're going down an ocean. It's very cold. When plastic or carbon or anything gets cold of that kind of molecular structure, it gets cold and brittle. So then it changes structure and it starts cracking, and it's not as strong. It's very brittle. Take plastic, freeze it, snap it. It'll break easy, just like carbon fiber. It's a lot stronger, but it will still give when you change the temperatures of it. Whether it be warm or hot, it's going to be weaker, not stronger. They cure it in heat just so that way it takes better when it adheres to its the particles to the epoxy. It's called pre-preg, and they heal it in heat and with pressure. So it takes all the air bubbles out of the carbon. So, but again, once you pressure on one side, you're just going to slowly push those pieces apart, and then sooner or later, after 7 or 8 times of pushing, it's going to give. And that's exactly what happened. So there's a little layman's way to understand it. I'm not a professional, but I understand carbon from building cars, and that's how it works. So really sad he didn't listen to the professionals. It's an obvious situation. But again, don't know if that's what happened. We'll find out. May the people all rest in peace, the 19-year-old and the 3 people that were not oceanographers or whatever, and they did not want to die in the ocean. That is a fact. maybe two people in that PH in Stockton did want to be there and love to explore the ocean of the Titanic. I would pay money to bet to say they didn't want to die in the ocean, but everyone tells themselves that to try to make themselves feel better, right? So it's kind of a sad reality that people do that, and I'm not going to speculate on what they found at the bottom of the ocean because I wouldn't do that to the families, and I find it very disrespectful. So I'm going to leave that at what's found by the professionals and leave it to them to tell people, not me, or speculate on gruesome thoughts and such. So stay well, my friends. May the families be well, and may the people who lost their lives and the 19-year-old all rest in peace and be at peace. Stay well, my friends. Take it easy.